Hello friends, in this chapter you are going to learn about the various situational factors that bring about prosocial behavior and also the different interpersonal factors that bring about prosocial behavior. We will first look into the different situational determinants of prosocial behavior. What are those specific factors that are present in the situation that make us behave prosocially? All our actions are influenced to a large extent by the situation in which we are in. Prosocial behavior does not depend completely on the internal or on the individual characteristics of a person, but they also depend greatly on the kind of a situation the person is in. So, it is both the personal, the situational and the interpersonal factors that act on a person's mind before the act of help comes out of him. With this basic understanding, we can see that it is not just the individual alone who is prosocial, but it is the various situational factors that make him either prosocial or otherwise. What is the first major determining factor that will bring about the prosocial behavior? You must have read through the bystander effect. Yes, more the number of bystanders, more time it is going to take to offer help to the person who needs help. Let us say that you are spending a night in a hotel room. At 10 in the night, when you are watching TV, the occupant of one of the adjoining rooms returns from dinner and finds a burglar rummaging through his suitcase. Before he can call for help, he is struck down and knocked partially unconscious. The intruder quickly gathers up his loot and he runs away. Your obvious prosocial responses would be to try to help the person in distress, if possible call a doctor, if possible summon the police, whatever the case may be. However, it takes a lot of steps to reach this particular decision. What is step 1? You should in the first place notice that the event has happened. You may be engrossed in your TV program. When such is the situation, there is no chance that you will in the first place realize that something has happened next door. Even if you hear some kind of a noise, you would presume that, oh, maybe there is a couple living next door and they are having a bitter argument. So, a lot depends on whether you have noticed the event happening or no. If you did not notice anything, obviously you will ignore the sound and then carry on with watching your TV. Then step 2 is interpreting the event as an emergency. You have to interpret what you hear. There are many logical explanations for the sound of a thump. Perhaps your neighbor is watching a mystery serial on TV. Perhaps just now as we discussed, they are having an argument. Once this is clear, you have to assume responsibility. If you perceive the noises and are correct in assessing what it is, then it is definitely indicative of an emergency. The next step is to assume personal responsibility for providing help. The next step would be knowing how to help. You have decided that yes, you want to offer help to that person who is in distress, but what kind of a help will you offer? When you know the right kind of help that has to be offered to the person, you can definitely go and help the person. But before arriving at that situation, there are quite a number of questions that will be acting on your mind. Should you run next door and try to provide direct help? Should you call the police? Notify the manager of the hotel? Should you run down the hall and try to catch the burglar? Or you just stand outside and call the others also to help? All these ideas are going on in your mind. These are all alternatives that you have to consider before you actually find out or before you actually arrive at a solution that is reasonable. Once you have arrived at a reasonable solution, then you will have to extend help to the person who is in need of help. This decision to implement your help will be the decisive factor for all the previous 4 processes that have gone through in your mind. You must actually engage in the behavior you decide on. If you want to call the police, first thing you have to do is pick up your phone, call the police. If police is not your priority, helping the person in pain is your priority, then go take him, get some help for giving him first aid and give him a glass of water so that he regains his consciousness completely. So, during these 5 steps, we understand that there are a lot of cognitive processes that are going on in the mind of the potential helper. Once there is confusion resolved at each and every stage, the first step there is confusion, okay fine, it is resolved. If the answer is yes, he will proceed to the second step. When he finds a yes answer for all the 4 steps, then the final step is the 5th one of implementing his help into action. So, all these are a series of cognitive processes. So, there is some time that is taken before you actually offer help. The same fact was established through the research work that was done by Latane and Darley. Latane and Darley proposed that individuals who were alone when an emergency situation occurred would definitely behave differently than people who were there in a group. If only one person witnessed a murderous attack, if only one person witnessed a child calling for help or a man being mugged, he would definitely do something about it. Latane and Darley have created an interesting experimental situation in order to study the responses of people towards an epileptic seizure. Students were told that they were to take part in a discussion of college problems. The experimenter left each subject alone after the instructions were given. The participants were in contact with one another through the intercom. The subject believed that he was interacting with one other student, he was interacting with 2 other students, and he was interacting with 5 other students. So, it is a 3 different situation where there were 2 people, 3 people and 6 people. But in reality, there were no other students present except the tape recordings. As the discussion began, the participants introduced themselves, and then without warning, the person in one of the recordings began to gasp, something similar to that of having an epileptic seizure. In the 2-person condition, the subject believed that he was the only bystander who knew of this emergency. In the 3-person condition, the subject believed that there were 2 other people along with him in this emergency situation. In the 6-person condition, the subject assumed that there were 5 other people along with him in the situation. Results indicated that the number of bystanders had a strong effect on the way the subjects responded to the emergency. More the number of bystanders, more time they took to offer help, and less likely that the subject was going to do anything. More bystanders, more time taken. Subjects who were alone responded in just a minute's time, but the others responded in a matter of 3 minutes' time. So, from this we can conclude that prosocial behavior gets inhibited or interfered or interrupted in the presence of others. According to Charlie Brown hypothesis, our prosocial tendencies are inhibited because of the presence of others, because we are afraid of what they might think of our behavior. We are scared, what if I do something wrong? What if my solution is not the perfect one? Each individual wants to project only the best side to the society. He does not want to make a fool of himself when others are present. So, that was about the first topic, the number of bystanders and the effect it has on extending prosocial help. Moving on to another one, which is environment. The environment from which you come from, the rural or the urban. So, what would be the kind of help that will be extended by people who hail from a village and the kind of help that will be extended from an urban bred individual? Let us take a look. People who have hailed from rural areas were found to be more helpful than people who hail from urban areas. Why? Why is there such a huge discrepancy in the behavior of people? People who hail from rural areas are brought up in a way to be more friendly and neighborly, and so they are more likely to help strangers. Milgram proposed the urban overload hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that people who live in cities are more likely to keep to themselves so that they can avoid unnecessary problems that might arise out of such kind of involvement. So, people from the rural backgrounds are more prosocial than people who hail from urban backgrounds. It does not necessarily rule out the fact that we urban bred people are not prosocial at all, but research has identified that the tendencies of the people who hail from the rural areas to offer help were more in comparison to the people who hail from the urban areas. After the number of bystanders, after the rural and urban factor, next is the resident mobility factor that determines the kind of prosocial behavior that is offered to people. People who lived for long years in a particular society, who lived for long years in a particular area, were more likely to offer help to strangers. Why? Why do you think that such and such a person offers help only to a stranger only when the emergency occurs in his locality? This is probably because he is very comfortable in his zone. He knows where he could go with the person in case of emergency. Probably such kind of awareness, such kind of assurance about the area, about the society to which he belongs to, about the people that live along with him in the society, all these factors make him more prosocial in his given area. In a study conducted by Oishi, it was found that participants who had earlier worked together on 4 assignments with a group member were more likely to offer help to this member when he was in an emergency situation. But if the person changed his groups regularly, there was less likeliness that he would get any kind of a help from his fellow members in times of necessity. We have just now understood the kind of situational determinants of prosocial behavior. It is the environment from which you hail from. It is the comfort that you have in your own zone that acts as a determinant in prosocial behavior, and also the presence of others that determine the prosocial behavior in a person. We are going to focus on interpersonal determinants of prosocial behavior. We have been traditionally taught that males and females are different. They act differently in different kinds of situations. For example, there is a fight going on. What do you expect the man to do? He would definitely go to the situation, try to resolve the fight, and probably get involved in the fight also. But what would be the involvement of the woman there? She will just stand there and see, or she will think, oh, I should not get into this kind of a ruckus, and she will walk out from the place. So, this has been taught to us that men behave like this and women behave like this, and that is why they have to be treated in different ways. So, females have been assumed to be the weaker sex and males have been expected to offer help almost at all times. if these values still hold any relevance in the current society, all those girls who are listening to me would feel that no, I am no less than a man, but fine, we are now talking about the traditional thoughts. If these values still have any kind of an influence, we can take it that more female victims will get help from the male people than male victims. Women are always the ones that are helped more when compared to the male. For example, we will take a situation where the car tire has to be changed and the victim is a female. It was observed in research that one car out of every 4 cars that passed by stopped if it was a female victim that needed assistance, or if it was a lady that needed assistance. We will not call her a victim here. If it was a female who was seeking help and struggling to change the tire of her car, 1 out of every 4 cars stopped by. But when it was a male who was stuck with his car and the tire, only 1 car out of 50 cars stopped by, and all those who stopped to offer help were males. This is very clearly portrayed in majority of our Hindi cinemas. It is always the girl who knows the best way to get a lift than the boy. Attraction. Another aspect of interpersonal determinant of prosocial behavior is attraction. Who do you think will get maximum help? Supposing you go ask for help and you are beautiful, there is every likeliness that 10 out of 10 times you are going to get help from whomever you seek help. But what is the plight of an unattractive person? Until unless the person who is offering help is highly altruistic, there is no assurance that the unattractive person is likely to get any kind of a help. Beautiful victims are found to receive more help than unattractive victims. Male altruism towards females was explained in such a way that these men acted prosocially because they had a romantic inclination towards the lady they were interacting with. The helping behavior is more quickly rendered when the person that has to be helped is attractive. This also happens in our daily lives. People come home asking for donations. When there is an attractive person who has come to seek a donation, you definitely take some time out to listen to them. And if it is an unattractive person, you say, oh, not now, I'm extremely busy, you please come some other time. So, it is proved that attraction also plays an important role in deciding whether you extend prosocial help to the person who is in need of help or no. Similarity is another factor. If you find that a person is in a similar situation as yours, there is every chance that help is extended to that person. You know very well what the difficulties would be. Your heart goes out to that person. You do not want that person to suffer. So, what do? You go out all your way, and even if it is a stranger, you help that person. When you see that there are people like you in a difficult situation, there is every chance that you will empathize with them, go out of your way and then offer them the much needed help. The last factor is the degree of closeness. People are more likely to help those victims with whom they are familiar rather than offer help to others or rather strangers. Females are found to offer more help to those people who fall under the close relationship category, and men are more likely to offer help to strangers. So, there are quite a number of factors that act on the mind of the potential helper. The characteristics that he possesses as an individual, the situation that is there right in front of him, and the interpersonal factors, whether he knows the person or no, whether he finds the person attractive or no, whether he has the competence or no. All these are various factors that act on his cognition, his thought process, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then finally make him arrive at a decision. Yes, I am going to offer help to the victim in this situation, or no, I do not want to offer any help to the victim. Prosocial behavior is a positive trait, and each one of us has to inculcate and learn to help the others who are in need, whether they are strangers or whether they are our known circle. To sum up the entire topic of prosocial behavior, we have understood that prosocial behavior is a voluntary act where help is extended to a person who is in distress, where the person can be helped to come out of the plight in which he is in. We have understood the kind of personal determinants that decide whether you behave in a prosocial manner or no. The focus also has been on various situational determinants and then on interpersonal determinants also. We have seen that the bystanders play a pivotal role. Latane and Darley have offered a lot of research and conducted a number of studies in this area and have concluded that more the number of bystanders, more time it is going to take for the people to offer help. In fact, there are more number of potential helpers there, but do they help? No. Why don't they help? Because of diffusion of responsibility. Each one refrains from taking responsibility towards a particular act. He thinks, no, the other person will take up some action. The other person will think, no, there is some Mr. X to do, there is some Mr. Y to do. So, all of them in a given situation thinking like that will procrastinate the help that has to be given to the victim. There is also the influence of culture and gender in the prosocial behavior that is extended. People who hail from the same culture are lucky enough to get help from the person, but in case if the person hails from another cultural background, he is not offered help at all. There is the influence of gender too. The weaker sex, or rather the fairer sex, are always the lucky ones to get the help, and if the fairer sex is attractive, there is a downpour of help from the male counterparts. There is the influence of closeness and similarity too on the way help is extended. Supposing you are close to a particular person, in the sense that if he is your kith and kin, the chances that you will go out of your way and offer help are really high than to an extended family member. So, closeness also plays an important role in helping a person decide whether he will offer prosocial help or he will not offer any help at all. Similarity plays a pivotal role again. If you were in such a kind of a situation earlier, and if the person now who is in need of help also is in the same kind of a situation, you know the ins and outs of being there. So, you will again act quickly to help the person out of his distress. So, whether bystanders or no bystanders, if we see a person in distress, it is strongly recommended that we take minimum possible time to offer help to those people. In some cases, when help is delayed, there is every chance that the person might lose his life also. So, rather than trying to diffuse the responsibility, you have to act in a proactive manner and then take the responsibility, and probably while you are engaged in such a busy activity, you will generate interest in other people and they will also join hands and help you achieve the task even faster. Whether the person is attractive or unattractive, it is the life that is at stake. It is a person that is suffering. So, let us not differentiate between people. Whether it is close kin or a stranger, someone is in need of help, and that to your help, you should really think about the situation and then act in a manner that will be gratifying to you as well as to that person. whether he is similar or dissimilar to your experience. All these factors will definitely help you ponder more upon the way help should be rendered to the person who is in distress. Let us all decide whether we want to be prosocial individuals, definitely not antisocial individuals. We have to decide whether we want to be prosocial individuals or irresponsible, indifferent individuals of the society where we are living.